Yeah, this is the Columbia logo. And here's like Roland Emmerich, the director of Anonymous.
And I'm John Orloff, the writer of Anonymous.
And this is the lady I'm working for lately. So, what we're like kind of seeing first is actually, whenever we at the beginning sent out the script, we always had this. Remember, John, we always had this like piece of paper of all these like different information, facts about, the man from Stratford. And at one point, I kind of thought, gosh, we have to come up with something. And then I kind of thought, and then I had an idea, and I called John, and I said, John, can we not like kind of make some prologue, like Shakespeare does prologue? And John liked the idea.
It was a great idea, and it was very late, actually, Roland. It was only a few months before we were going to shoot.
Yeah, it's like when you come very close to a film, you always get like these anxiety attacks. And this was just one of my anxiety attacks that like kind of normal people, had never ever heard of this problem, had to get a brief introduction. And we had like,
and we tried a couple different ideas
Yeah.
Before you came up with the idea of putting him in the theater, which I think was a really brilliant idea, because not only is it serving this idea of letting the audience know that there's a real legitimate question to the authorship of the plays, but in addition, you're framing the movie as a play, as a piece of drama, not as a documentary. And I thought that was a very clever idea of yours.
Well, in general, whatever you do historically, it must be an invention. There is no way around that you ever can like kind of be historically accurate. Whatever you do is like kind of, even when you like make a movie about somebody 20 years ago, you have to kind of, make it, like you can never ever have it accurate.
It's never going to be 100% the literal truth in any situation. When I made Band of Brothers and you would interview the living people who were in the show, they would all remember the events totally differently.
Exactly.
And we would have to figure out as writers, which version of the truth do we write? And here we have a story that's 400 years old, so we don't have anybody to talk to.
Exactly. And here you see like kind of Sir Derek Jacobi, who we're very excited that he is doing the prologue. First of all, he's one of the, like eminent, like Shakespearean actor in the London stage, but he's also like a very, very vocal, like kind of defender of the authorship question.
He's a big doubter of Shakespeare and an Oxfordian. He's a very big Oxfordian. And it was really a thrill to have him want to be part of the movie. Oh, and I love this little thing you did, this in-camera effect is so cool.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't know we've just cut from inside the theater to on set, or onto your built set.
And actually, this one shot, we shot on the set. And then like Anna like kind of built a light rig so that there's no light, and then all of a sudden she fades in the light, so.
Anna was our director of photography.
Exactly.
Brilliant director of photography.
And now we're in Babelsberg.
Yeah.
our little
Your
little
one real
street.
set. Your one real set.
Yeah, we had like not much money in this film, but I think we spent it very wisely.
Yeah.
And it's very important to actually have a real piece of street in front of our theater, and this is now the Rose Theater.
Which was built in totality. I mean, 360 degrees, and what did we have, like at times 800, 900
Exactly.
extras?
Yeah, 800.
I love that shot. And that's a real shot, too.
Yeah,
That's
that
not
was a
digital,
real shot.
right?
Yeah, we removed some like kind of raindrops, but this was like kind of a real shot.
Yeah, like
From a building crane. So here is like kind of one of the main story points. Ben Jonson got chased, and we don't know it's Ben Jonson yet, and he's like kind of very mysteriously hiding some manuscripts.
which is also a late idea.
Yes, very late.
Yeah.
But it
a
was
great
like,
one.
Yeah, but it was like kind of not really, that late. I mean, it was not as
Yeah.
late as the other one. And, I was like lately asked, by some Stratfordian, why, were these like kind of plays so important, and I said like, well, in the first folio, not all the plays were existing, how many plays? There were like 12 plays, which were totally new.
Right.
So obviously we come later to that. So this is like kind of all visual effects, done by Volker Engel and Mark Weigert with a small group of 20, 30 people that did the visual effects in Babelsberg. And here we like kind of now introduce,
Our villain,
our villain.
Sir Robert Cecil, who really was a hunchback. It seems like a dramatic flourish, but in fact, Sir Robert Cecil, later Lord Salisbury, was actually a hunchback.
And and historically, like kind of, well, we come to this later. And this is like kind of a scene where we,
Well, where we show that the writer, the role of a writer in Elizabethan society was a dangerous one. Ben Jonson was arrested many times through his career for writing things that disturbed the powers that be. And we wanted to set that up to show that it was a dangerous thing to be a writer and to write about politics. You got arrested, you got hurt, perhaps murdered. Marlowe might have been murdered over these things. And so we're establishing the jeopardy and the tension very, very early of what it means to be a writer.
Here we like can introduce William Shakespeare, the actor. And here, we like kind of see our two earls, the Earl of Oxford and
There's Southampton.
and so, yeah, well,
Let's not get us more confused.
no, it's like kind of Earl of Oxford and the Earl of Southampton, and Earl of Southampton shows the first time, his friend, the public theater. And public theaters then was a totally new thing. And, they were like kind of the first time that, like somebody in in an absolute monarchy could like kind of speak to people.
Directly.
And they were enormously successful. The authorities were not very happy with them. They closed them down once in a while, and they also like kind of were not only like a place to kind of watch plays. They were like kind of meeting places. They were like kind of the whole society was pretty much like going to these places.
Yes, both the rich and the poor and the middle class, everybody would come to these things. And the way the theater was built and structured was revealing that social stratus. Like the earls that we're just looking at right now were in these beautiful boxes that actually had terrible seats, as you've said before, Roland. They had terrible seats, but they were part of what you looked at. They wanted to be seen more than see the play. So they'd be on the sides, like this man's now pointing to them up in the...
And people made fun of them, obviously, like Ben Jonson. I was here making fun of them, like kind of just... and that was like kind of our whole point, right? That Ben Jonson, was a true, commoner who'd had like a commoner point of view. And for him, it was like kind of the servants, a lot, the servants who helped, their...
In his plays, you're
in
talking
his
about
plays,
his
yeah,
plays.
his
His plays were all about the servants, not about the noblemen. The noblemen were made fun of in his plays, which made him dangerous to the nobility.
And that's why he gets now arrested.
Which happened quite a bit. But never happened to William Shakespeare, as far as we know, the man from Stratford.
Well, it's like there's if he would have been arrested, there would be records of that.
Exactly, as
Because
there
we
are
have
of Ben Jonson.
We have pretty. They have pretty much like complete court records of that time. And this was like kind of one of my favorite actors, who played Pole.
Yeah, he was great. He sort of represents the power of the tower.
Yeah, but he was he had a kind of his own acting style, which really fit his part very well.
And so now our earls leave because, off from one entertainment to the next, off from plays now to tennis.
And now we like kind of show like kind of royal tennis it was called, It was quite interesting. We had to, there were like also 2-3 different description of how this was really played. We just then went with one. and this was very complicated. And we couldn't, like have our actors really. This ball is it's a leather ball, so it's very hard to play. So the ball is digital.
Oh, I
So
forgot about that.
so
That's
they
right.
totally
They totally
like
pantomimed.
yeah, they pantomimed and actually really worked.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It
always like
totally
kind of amazed
plays.
about these things.
Yeah, and then that's the Earl of Essex.
Yeah.
This is the first time we meet Essex.
And in a way, we learned this later, but like both Essex and Southampton are bastard children of the Queen.
Which were rumored at the time and is a dramatic license in our movie. And now they're discussing the succession of who's going to be the next king, because Elizabeth was very ill at the end of her reign and refused to name an heir, historically. And so it was a real crisis in the kingdom because they had suffered a terrible civil war, the War of the Roses. And they didn't want to repeat that. The culture didn't want to repeat it. So they wanted to make sure there was a king in place, and Elizabeth refused to do that. So it created all this tension that was ripe. And this is one of the things that Roland brought to the script very early that the script didn't have before. And Roland said, John, let's make this a Shakespearean play. Let's make this movie about way more than it was. Let's make it about power and who's going to be the next king and incest and murder, and let's have a fool, and which became Shakespeare. And it was Roland's idea to make this great Shakespearean drama.
Well, I kind of just read, a lot, and there had been a couple of books written since
my original script.
Exactly, and and there is this this theory which even divides the Oxfordians, the Prince Tudor theory, which is like kind of that Southampton was actually Oxford's and Elizabeth's son, and that
Bastard
was
son.
Bastard son. So that was like kind of something I kind of felt was so Shakespearean, because when you look at Shakespeare's plays, that's like kind of the themes he uses.
Yeah, it was just such a great idea, Roland. It changed the movie. It catapulted the movie into something so much more interesting.
But it also like made it like kind of. I always like to think it's great to kind of see a story where the main plot is actually not what like kind of the problem is. And I always like said, if there would have been a reason, for somebody, not to put his name on all these plays, it has to be a political reason. It has to be a very big reason. And I kind of thought, we asked ourselves, what is the biggest important fact in that society? And it was succession.
Now, this scene, I just want to say, the guy that plays Essex, who's with the Queen right now, this was his first day ever making a movie. He was still in drama school, and his very first day on a film set, he is with Vanessa Redgrave as Queen Elizabeth, and he's helping her in her entrance.
And Vanessa Redgrave herself, was a really coup to get, because I shot with her daughter Jolie before, who's also in the movie. But I asked, Jolie, so what do you think your mom will, will she do it? Will she not do it? And then she says, you have to understand, my mom is very opinionated. And if she doesn't like how you portray this character, she will not play it. And so when I met her, I was really nervous. But to my relief, she saw actually the character of Queen Elizabeth I, which she had studied all her life, the same way we did. She actually, thought we have to make it more extreme.
Yeah.
So she plays her really as this slightly, demented woman, at the beginning, who's like kind of so bored and so out of it. And, that fits actually our, like kind of, she was a marionette in our scripts, our story to the Cecils.
Because she was old and confused by age, and that's why they could use her as a puppet. And she was just amazing.
Yeah, she was just amazing.
And so here's A Midsummer Night's Dream being performed at Burleigh House, right? Isn't this Burleigh House?
Yep, that's Burleigh House.
Which is William Cecil's house.
And the backgrounds here are real backgrounds. We shot that at Montague in England.
And then digitally inserted them.
Exactly. This all shot in front of green screen. Sort of the many, many green screen scenes we have in this movie.
But seamless.
Yeah. It's like his digital cameras, are much, better.
So here's our first flashback. which, gave us a lot of trouble as we were working on the script. When do we cut back? When do we cut forward? How much information do we give at what point? And so now we cut to the young Queen Elizabeth, played by Jolie.
Jolie Richardson, the daughter of Vanessa Redgrave.
And it's the same play, A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Played by children. And here we have like young Oxford.
A little angel, as you used to say when we would talk about the script. You always wanted him in those wings, which was, and it was just one of those things. It's so great when an idea lasts for years. No, I'm serious. For years you had that image in your head of a little angel of Edward de Vere, and see, here he is.
And here he meets the Queen.
And on the right, next to the Queen, is David Thewlis as William Cecil, the Hunchback's father.
It's also strange that actually, that's like already hit me very late, that we meet, William Cecil in the flashback first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Is truth, though never so old.
This kid was amazing.
And this is the only bit of dialogue that he's speaking right now is absolutely Edward de Vere's. He wrote a poem that he just recited that is Edward de Vere's poem, not Shakespeare, whomever Shakespeare might have been.
Are you indeed? It is my only desire to one day be your majesty.
And that's like kind of also through the kid, we learn what he really wants to be.
Right.
He wants to be not only a poet, he wants to be a statesman, a great warrior, like all his,
Forefathers.
forefathers.
He wants to be a Renaissance man. He wants to be good at everything, not just poetry. And in fact, Edward de Vere, whatever you think of him as a playwright, whether he wrote these plays or not, we can all agree that is what he wanted as a historical figure. He wanted to be a great man, a great statesman. Now we cut back to the main story.
You've been released.
And
That's Sebastian Amesto, which we first actually like kind of thought would be a great Marlowe. And then I don't know what happened, I all of a sudden had this idea he maybe even can be Ben Jonson, because I couldn't find really a great Ben Jonson. So we told his agent, that like kind of we would love to read him for Ben Jonson, and he kind of said, no, I want to kind of do. He was like just afraid that he would lose the part of Marlowe, and then and that was all like kind of over internet, because he was playing theater in Japan, and it's actually the first time ever in my life that I cast somebody which I had never met before, but I didn't regret it. He was incredible.
And it's really the key character in the movie that sort of lives in both worlds. He crosses from the playwriting world to the nobility, and he's sort of us. He's the character we can identify the most with.
And now we like kind of see the first, longer scene with Rhys Ifans, which it was like kind of strange. I met every actor in London I could meet and wanted to be in my movie, and him and everyone I asked, so what do you want to play? And he said, well, you probably meet me to play William Shakespeare, because it was a comedic character, and but he said, like, I would love to play the Earl of Oxford. And then I was a little bit, probably made a face, and then my casting director said, oh, Rhys can be quite posh. And from that moment on, I could not get out of my head, Rhys Ifans as Oxford. And slowly, I realized that is an absolute brilliant choice, and everybody thought I'm crazy. And then when people saw the first, like kind of couple of scenes with him, everybody was blown away by his performance.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular.
In the mornings, he's, in real life, he's when you see him, you think he's more like a rock musician or something. And, and he came in the morning as Rhys Ifans, and an hour later, out of the makeup and hair trailer and costume trailer came the Earl of Oxford. And he was the whole day the Earl of Oxford. And when you talk to him, you talk to an Earl. Quite interesting.
Yeah, and he was just so intense. As soon as he came on set, whatever rock and roll boy was gone. It was amazing.
Yeah.
You wrote an entire play. I know how difficult that is.
And this was a really cool set because it's the maze, And again, you only in real life had like tiny little bit of it, and we just kept going on around in circles.
Exactly.
It was very clever.
Yeah, and there's like also once we had like a wide shot of it, but I didn't thought it was really befitting. I thought it was like kind of took you more out of the movie than kind of
Right.
kept you in. So a very expensive visual effect shot got nixed, you know.
Right.
My lord, I really must.
It's probably a good point to mention the costumes, because the costumes are so amazing. As Rhys just left, I was just admiring the costume. And
Well, we tried to kind of, I think Lizzie looked at real costumes and just said we have to kind of have them look more handmade, because she felt that like in other movies they were too perfect. And it's a very fine line, you want to also not, make them in any way, because they were very expensive at that time, but they should have looked handmade. And I think she found the fine line between, looking slightly imperfect and still like impressive.
yeah, you never think for an instant that they're costumes. You think they're clothes people actually wore.
And I know that the studio was very, very like kind of worried about all these, colors, I mean,
They
the
disappear.
cuffs, yeah,
I
that
think.
does yeah,
You just
exactly.
stare at the face and look at David in all of that makeup.
Yeah, yeah, he had.
It's amazing makeup too. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
even in real life, you couldn't tell it was makeup.
Yeah,
It was just some of the best old man makeup I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it was just, and this is like a little reshoot we did to kind of explain the story better. We had like this problem that at the very beginning, a lot of people were lost, that they like didn't understood what this is really about, and so we pretty much, spelled it out.
Right, but not in a bad way. I mean, I think
no,
everybody needs to
no.
know, what we're 20 minutes in. We need to know that the stakes are who's going to be the next king.
And that like really helped a lot,
It did, yeah.
And now we have another flashback.
So there's our hunch.
Hmm.
I love these through the window shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see it goes warmer, right? The color
Yeah.
temperature
And then
changes.
here's the kid.
Yeah.
Him as a kid, amazing kid.
Yeah,
He
really,
was-
really great.
He was amazing.
I'm sorry, my Lord of Oxford. My son prepares the company of himself.
So now here's Jamie, right?
Jamie
As Oxford.
Campbell Bower, which is in real life very much like also like a little rock star.
Yeah.
And when you see, actually, I had like a dinner with Rhys and Jamie at the beginning, just so they meet each other. And I think Rhys was constantly keep staring at Jamie and said, and then he like kind of when Jamie went to the bathroom, I said, "Roland, well done. He's very good looking." He was like just pleased that I took a very good looking boy as his younger alter ego.
And this was a point that we wanted to get into the movie, that Oxford was incredibly well educated, and we know we have the papers of his education, and it's an important issue in the Shakespeare authorship issue, how educated the author of the plays was. And we know Oxford was extremely well educated, went to college, got a law degree, spoke all of these languages, all the things that the author of the play would have to be, Oxford was. As opposed to Shakespeare, where there's actually no record that he went to school at all.
Idols and therefore a sin before the eyes of God.
And then, of course, this is, mentioning that his future father-in-law, William Cecil, was a religious extremist and was not so into art and those things.
He was a Puritan, and they kind of thought, kind of that poetry is like not part of like education. Here, there's like a little conflict between him and.
You were losing anyway.
I was also winning.
Which is historically true. Oxford and Robert Cecil never liked each other for their whole lives. Yet they were raised together in the same household, almost like brothers. Now, this was a little artistic license because there's an event that happened in Oxford's life where, at around this age, he killed a servant of William Cecil's. We don't know the exact reasons or the exact circumstances, rather, of what happened. We just know it happened. And so we use that event that historical event and used it to dramatic purposes.
And also, like in Hamlet, later, there's like a correlation with that scene.
Right, exactly. Because one of the things we wanted to say in this movie is that art doesn't come from a vacuum. It comes from life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're back in the present day, and with the fantastic Rafe Spall.
Yeah. Yeah, Rafe, like kind of, I have to say, he owned that part.
Oh, unbelievable. And so important, because sort of in this idea of yours of making this into a Shakespearean play, with all that means that we talked about earlier, you also have to have the fool. You have to have a character that is the fool. And in our movie, that ends up being Shakespeare. He's the comedic sort of character in our movie that I think lightens it up perfectly. Just gives us a little bit to have some fun.
Yeah, and also like kind of Ben Jonson in the scene can like kind of really tell us what he really wants. He wants to be the soul of the age.
He wants to be the greatest playwright ever.
Actually, the script was once called The Soul of the Age.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yep.
For the longest time.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, had this idea to call it Anonymous, which actually... Catchier and is more,
accessible.
More accessible. Especially today, because there's a big hacker group called also Anonymous. Which
But
is
right
like
here, we see this moment with Rafe, and this funny, carefree guy suddenly becomes very, very serious.
Yeah.
He played him just beautifully. And so now we see the politics and how William Cecil is going to try to manipulate the Queen to get his rivals out of London.
I also wanted to kind of show that, like, kind of these people, they dressed, they had, like, kind of, I think she went through 1 or 2 hours of dressing and makeup, every day. And here's, like, kind of, again, now David Thewlis must have, like, he is the unsung hero for me in this movie, because he played him in, like, 4 or 5 different ages, and he distinguished these ages. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's so difficult. He kind of altered his voice when he was older. And he was always like, remember when he was always like kind of doing his voice, like kind of, He said, what is he doing? What's he doing? And he's just lowered, and made his voice sound thinner and older, and it's incredible.
Yeah, he was just amazing. And actually, Robert, the actor who plays Robert, this character, I'd only met him in costume. And the first time I went to give him some changes in the script, I went to his dressing room and I saw this PA come out, this young PA, production assistant. And I handed him the pages and I said, could you please give this to to Ed Hogg, the actor. And the PA was Ed Hogg. I didn't recognize, I didn't know him.
Yeah, he was this...
He physically transformed himself as well. When he would get into the makeup and put the hunch on, and he would start, it was a different human being suddenly.
Yeah. I mean, I, from the very beginning, insisted on actually only using English actors, because I thought they just to be, like kind of true to the story was necessary. I don't think you can so easily, do the accent and everything, it feels always like for me slightly, off.
Yeah.
Some are really good, but American actors, but...
For some reason, it's harder to go American to English than English to American.
Yeah.
And so now we're seeing how that murder that we saw earlier is going to affect the entire story, because Cecil's going to use it to blackmail Oxford into marrying his daughter.
We can claim self-defense. He drew sword fast.
And then here's again, David in a different, he's got more energy. He's, he's not the old man.
And he's like kind of much more dangerous, in a way.
But look at him play with his ring. I mean, he's always doing something interesting,
Well, also like kind of we like kind of spend a lot of time also makeup for his hands. Which, like there was a whole meeting about that at the beginning, because we wanted to kind of use, maybe comes later a scene where we see the hands very big. Maybe we should use a hand double of an old man, and then actually David said, no, I want to play with my hands. So and then we had to come up with something.
Now this is amazing, because there's nothing there but a floor. I don't know how you do this. I mean, literally, everything you see is fake except for the people.
Well, not even the people. There's some of them, and actually, this the actor here, we made like a really mistake in casting. We cast another actor, so we actually used the body and put another actor's.
Oh, right, because he's the same
Remember-
guy
yeah.
30 years later,
And we're like
right?
kind of just totally like kind of.
I didn't even notice that, Roland, until
Yeah.
you just said that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's with
Wow.
our little street with
I'm
our
glad you
theater.
fixed that, though.
But it was like our mistake. you know?
Yeah.
Because it was like just named
The priest or whatever.
no, I think it was like the cardinal or whatever.
Oh, right. He was the Archbishop of
Archbishop,
Canterbury.
exactly.
Right.
And here we need like meet the first time again, or like again the wits. There was like just
The mermaid's wits or the
mermaid's
other
wits.
writers from the time. Oh, you got to talk about this day, Roland.
Okay, so
and Mark.
we had like kind of built this theater and had the good fortune that Mark Rylance wanted to be in our film, and after a lot of thinking, he chose prologue. And this was just a magical moment, for all of us, because all of a sudden one of the greatest actor of our time gives, the first time we hear Shakespeare's words, is his voice, right?
Yeah, and it's the first time we had the theater totally full, and yeah, it was just one of the most amazing days.
And I was amazed, how these like German extras who couldn't understand a word of English reacted to Mark Rylance. And when I told them that they're all German, they said, oh, he only like kind of looked at me and then said, okay. And then when you see his performance, it's very, very physical. And he just, like kind of played it more with his body too, which normally is actually not really done, and he kind of made the best out of it because he's a theater man. He, whatever, he does, Now here are some of the biggest visual effects shots cut in between because we wanted to kind of, show also a town and a city. See here, he plays a horse and they totally naturally reacted. It's magical.
It was really magical. And like this shot, there was this moment after, because you hadn't done
Well,
this
this was
yet.
like kind of this. There was like kind of this is a Steadicam shot, and my Steadicam operator came to me and said, Sebastian is his name, and he said, I have to be with this man on the stage.
He didn't
Please
know
give
who he
me-"
was.
And he had no idea who he was, but he was so taken by him. And then he did 2 takes of him, on the stage, which are, I thought, there's like most of what you see is actually in
Yeah.
there.
And then here's the famous St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V. And this is also a real reaction. When he goes down to the audience you'll see, will reach out their hands to him.
And they did this on them by themselves.
Yeah, it was totally undirected. And again, they don't even understand English. This moment, right now.
They all like kind of think, we have to not all do that. And just
It was
incredible, right?
This is all imposed and just the magic of theater, of an actor with great words and an
let's
audience.
talk here about, like the director, Tamara Harvey. I
yeah.
kind of thought I didn't want her to kind of really direct the plays because I thought I'm a film director and I think we needed.
And you've got enough to do.
And I got enough to do. And we had a trouble finding somebody who wanted to play in this, to take this job in this film, because that could very well mean that you're like in England, you will.
You're heretical.
Exactly, but she
It's
didn't care.
heresy.
And she did an amazing job. I mean,
And she found amazing actors. Didn't
yeah.
she cast
Oh yeah,
those-
she cast
those-
she
her
cast
own
Alex
troupe?
and
It was like
all
her
of
own troupe of
yeah,
actors.
which was also in that time like that.
Yeah,
there were
exactly.
acting troops.
Yeah, and they would switch roles.
And here we like can also see, like how much passion is in the Earl of Oxford, who was always this very kind of cold demeanor.
But to see his work come alive and to see the audience respond just gives him such a thrill. He gets wrapped up in it as well. And then there's your big set. Your one big set.
And I shot it from every angle possible. It's like, And here comes this moment where like our Will Shakespeare of Stratford, sees his big chance.
He sees how popular this play is, and he says, "I'm going to go for it."
And at the same time, this is a little the turning point from the first to the second act. Like obviously, in our main storyline, also things happen. So the Essex goes to
Southampton.
Ireland, and Southampton wants to go with him, and that's like kind of parallel cut.
I cannot give it.
If he is to be my king, then it is my sacred duty to be with him.
Right, so both of these storylines are sort of having their act break.
Intersecting there,
Yeah.
and have their act break. And it was.
I love Rhys in that moment where he's realizing that an actor is going to take credit for his plays.
And it's like hysterical. I mean, I have to say,
Rafe is great.
Rafe's ball is great in this.
He has no dialogue to say, so he doesn't know what to say as a character.
He does it beautifully.
Yeah, right. Because without dialogue in our movie, an actor doesn't have anything to say.
So he thanks endlessly his actors.
Until he runs out of things to say.
I have to make here a disclaimer. It feels here that I don't like actors, but I love actors. I think
and
actors are my
love
favorite.
you.
Yeah, I know, but we all actors, and we always laughed about that. Actor, for God's sake.
And I love this room. And I hope you don't mind. I see little things that look like they came out of your living room.
Yes. And it was a little bit inspired. The people that come to my places and say, "Oh, like
the
Roland
zebra."
has I have everywhere I go. I have zebra heads. I don't know why. It's an obsession of mine. But I left the phalluses out, as you can see. The phalluses would have been not the right thing. But overall, we looked at a lot of writers' studies. And I have to say, the art department, the set dresser, Simon, he did an amazing job.
Well, yeah.
Overall.
Every detail. You walk into a set.
Let's talk about, just the art department. The art department, this movie was incredible. Sebastian Krawinkel, was our production designer. And there was a lot of that first time people did something. I think Sebastian did, for example, supervising art director in big movies, but he never had the chance really to kind of do a bigger, a film. And it was like I think every one of these guys, was like kind of,
And look at the attention to detail in this room. It's a mess, as most writers' rooms are. Because, but it's an organized mess, and it's just you can see all of the ideas of the plays are in this room.
Yeah,
and Sebastian did that.
And there were
fantastic.
and there was also little things, which are character things. He was, not only a very learned man. He was a botany, all these kind of things.
Hawking. There's a lot of hawk imagery.
So we
in
saw
the plays.
tennis, we saw hawking. That's all like kind of things of the upper class,
and that are in the plays.
And here's something we actually invented on the set.
Yeah.
Because there's also this talk about, in most people think, that like William Shakespeare was a pseudonym, and we kind of wanted to somewhat get this in too. So in a way, like Oxford invents on the spot, some sort of a like meaning to the word Will Shakespeare.
And also the hyphen. To authorship people, the hyphen is very important because the man from Stratford doesn't have a hyphen in his name. And the plays, when they were first published in the sonnets and the first published works, there's a hyphen. It says Shake-Spear.
And it's 50% of the times written like that.
And nobody knows why.
Yeah.
But in Elizabethan England, a hyphen indicated a nom de plume, a pseudonym.
In a way, like kind of a lot of things, in Elizabethan age were, had to be hidden because it was an absolute monarchy.
Exactly. It was more like present-day North Korea than present-day England. Now, this is actually one of my favorite, as the writer, I'm going to say, this is one of my favorite bits of dialogue in the movie, when he talks about why he has to write. And this is pretty much stayed from the early drafts.
Yeah.
It's one of the beats that stayed
This
true
is,
through every draft.
And his wife, is not like the older Anne, Helen Baxendale. She was incredible too. I mean, every one of our actors was incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's one of Rhys' best moments.
Only when I put their words, their voices to parchment, are they cast loose freed. Only then is my mind
He's great.
Yeah,
He's just,
and she's
just
framed by all
spectacular.
his things.
Yeah, surrounded by them,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Kind of overwhelmed by his things. Great mise en scène, as they say.
Yeah.
Maybe I am.
Also, it's one of my favorite costume, her costume with the stripes. It's just like incredible. Here we see like a London Bridge was at that time actually a shopping mall.
And there was only one.
Yeah.
One bridge across
Yeah,
the Thames,
exactly.
connecting the two halves
And
of the city.
that was also the biggest shopping place. Everybody went there shopping.
Right.
You know, so it had houses on it and everything.
And covered, and really cool. And look at
Yeah.
it, you've never seen it like, I've never seen it actually in film,
Yeah.
much less so
Well, it's like,
accurate.
it's in a way, it's like that's what we try to do. We try to kind of create, as the most accurate Elizabethan movie ever. That's
And what
was
you
our
also
goal.
did is you made the city a character. You made us feel like there's a whole world beyond this movie, which you don't often feel in period movies. You feel like you're in a small room and everything's intimate and small, and you can kind of feel like it's a stage play almost, many of these period pieces. But this is not a stage play. This is a movie happening in 1600 England.
Now we go back to,
Another play.
another play, Romeo and Juliet.
Tamara came up to me at one point very early on, and she said, John, I'm so frustrated because I feel like I'm doing cliches, Shakespearean cliches, as she's figuring out how to do these plays. And, I said, but Tamara, you have to remember, they're not cliches the very first time you see them.
Yeah. And also we tried to kind of shoot every theater piece a little bit different. Here we were like with Steadicam on the set. We had like these, again, we had stage designs because I always like kind of believed, I think we made a little
I
bit
love
more
this shot. Sorry.
a little bit more stage design than was probably used at that time. But we kind of just wanted to, give everything a certain, lushness.
Speaking of lushness, look at these candles. No, I think you should talk about
Yeah, well, it's like kind of the whole
about
room.
the candles and
the whole
how you
room,
lit it.
The whole room was lit by candles, and I know that like kind of was done before, but the camera we used, was a prototype, and it's one of the first cameras which had a 800 ASA chip, and this scene we shot like with more than 1600 ASA, and and it's just like looks incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's almost entirely candlelit. I think you had
Yeah,
one,
it's totally.
one.
No, this was
little-
totally candlelit.
Yeah.
Even the key light was candlelit. We just used flame bars.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really interesting I love about this scene is all of the tapestries are, to save money, you and Sebastian came up with this clever idea of there are no walls. There's just pieces of canvas that are Xerox copies of tapestries.
Yeah, well, we had like kind of, I mean, the tapestries, it just were like kind of printed.
Yeah.
Printed
Yeah.
on very rough linen, and it looked totally like, a real, because you never go very close to these things anyway.
But it was such a brilliant solution to, hiding the fact that there's not very much there.
Yeah. Well, this was the same room, where, we had like kind of a module set, and we had like a high, middle, and low module set. And it was always the same walls and the same doors over and over again, but you had to just redecorate it, and with light and everything, they look totally different. On top of it, the Elizabethan architecture is very formulaic. It was a very formulaic time,
Formulaic, yeah.
Formulaic time. Thanks for correcting me.
Sorry.
No, it's like I always like when people correcting me.
Well, I wasn't sure what you were meaning at first, and I wanted to make sure everybody else understood what you
See
meant.
what a hard job like John had, the director.
No,
it was
not
hard
at
to
all.
understand.
Not at all.
That's one of my favorite scenes, because we realize she is totally has the hots for him.
Yeah.
I think like Jolie played this to perfection.
Cougar. She's a cougar.
Cougar. Yeah. I said, she asked me at one point, so how would you define my character? Cougar.
Oh, and this was great. This was a really late idea of yours. And I remember you coming up to me and you had this impish little grin on your face and you said, I think I'm going to do the lovemaking scene on the throne. What do you think of that? And I was shocked. And you said, if we're going to do it, let's do it all the way, John. And I thought it was great.
I like to provoke. What can I say?
And then there are little details in the movie that people might not get the first time they see it, but like this is one of them. And this is the two of them are on this beautiful floor, and it's supposed to evoke what we saw earlier in Midsummer Night's Dream, when the older Elizabeth is watching, I can't remember what character, wake up.
It's the Queen.
Yeah, the fairy
Titania.
queen.
The fairy
it's
queen.
Titania.
Yeah, Titania.
And it's sort of the same setup here.
And here again, the ambition of de Vere comes out again. He wants to have a commission.
He wants to be a statesman. He wants to be a
wants to
warrior.
yeah. And
And
she
like
thinks she's like naturally, thinks he only like sleeps with her because of that.
Right. He wants to use her like everybody else in court.
And then he like kind of uses his biggest talent.
His poetry.
Yeah. Remember like kind of this poem?
Yeah, I had a poem in here originally before anybody wanted to make the movie, and it was I don't even remember how it got in because it's so old, the script, but it was a Marlowe poem. It wasn't a Shakespeare poem in this scene. And was it Tamara or
Yeah, it
you?
was Tamara. No, it was Tamara.
It was Tamara.
Tamara
who
said that she said this in my very, very first meeting with her. There's only one problem. The love poem is actually not from Shakespeare. It's from Marlowe. I said, oh, that's a problem.
Yes, it was a problem. I don't know how that happened,
And
Roland.
I think this one is even better
It's
because
a way better poem. It's
yeah,
sexier.
yeah.
It plays. You could block it as a
Yeah, yeah,
director because
yeah.
he's
The
talking
other
about
one-
Mistress Mine. Come, I'm
Yeah.
walking, or he says
Yeah.
something. It's a way better poem.
And here I like kind of indicate something which also
A little.
actors little sex.
And Jamie's very.
Yeah.
They're a very handsome couple.
Yeah.
Jamie and Jolie.
Yeah. No, like Jamie was also very good in this movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a young actor, and he's like really. He will have a big career. That's also one of my most famous moments, my favorite moments, because how we go, back into the from the flashback back into the present time. To what?
And so now we have the mermaid's wits, and actually, you don't really get this, but these are all real poets. From left is Nash, Marlowe,
and
Dekker, and Johnson. They were all friends. They would all, and then Shakespeare. They would all go into the Mermaid's Tavern, which was a bar near the theater district, and they would all talk, and they were all friends and rivals at the same time. I mean, as a writer, you can't make this up. This is all such great stuff.
Now comes our big montage, where
where Shakespeare's name gets bigger and bigger with each playbill, which is an anachronism. They didn't really have those posters outside.
But it's like a very modern thought, right? I mean,
Again, you have to convey to the audience as quickly as possible what's going on. And the idea that you're selling here is Shakespeare is becoming more and more popular with each play. And how do you do that economically? Well, this was the idea, to do it economically. Each time you see that playbill sign, his name is bigger and bigger.
And like this was like kind of all Tamara's work, and she really did an amazing job. And the actors, her actors,
Yeah, her actors were spectacular.
they're spectacular. Because it's very hard to actually play for a live audience, and they always rallied them up. And we like gonna see Dekker is more like an audience member than a writer.
Yeah.
And
so his name is getting bigger.
Yeah, and this is like kind of one of my favorites.
I love this one.
Plays, and how we filmed it, and because we also like kind of
It's
took
like
a
the
little
first
bit,
horror movie. This is the first horror movie.
Well, we also like took a little bit license. We kind of know that like in England it's sometimes very dark during the day, so they must have like kind of used fire too, and probably they like kind of stage these plays, during the day, but like we made it like look like it's
a cloudy day.
A cloudy day, exactly.
And now, so here's one of Tamara's great actors who's dressed and acting like a caricature of the David Thewlis character,
William
Cecil. And even Stratfordians, people who think Shakespeare, the man from Stratford, wrote the plays, everybody agrees that this character, Polonius, is a caricature of the David Thewlis character.
And, it's also like kind of one of the big points, that, like Oxford's like kind of life really reflects, Hamlet.
Yeah.
And, he, and it's very, and everybody always agrees, even the Stratfordian, that like some sort of like Hamlet has a very autobiographical feel.
Yeah. It's his most personal play, people feel.
And here, like kind of now it references the scene we saw earlier with young Oxford, only it's Cecil himself or Polonius who is spying and
not a servant of Polonius. Yeah,
exactly. And actually, I think the audience then knew exactly what was going on.
Right.
And it's a big point for the Oxfordian to say only somebody very, very close, and he was the son-in-law of William Cecil, they couldn't arrest him. And and that's why we wanted to show it in the film. And then there is like kind of this famous letter from the French ambassador to his king, where he was describing what Elizabeth, the old Elizabeth, is like, and she must have obviously constantly opened her dress to get.
She might have
air.
had eczema, I think, or she would, yeah. And then here's, the most famous soliloquy in Shakespeare. And it starts to rain, and the audience doesn't leave because they're so captivated. And something Tamara said that you guys worked on, which I thought was very clever, was with each subsequent Shakespeare play you see, the staging gets simpler and simpler because it becomes more and more just about the words. So the Henry V one is very elaborate, and the costumes are very elaborate. And now here we have just a man in black.
Yeah, well, like
with,
also
with
like
no set, just saying things.
We read, that they just like wrapped everything in black cloth for like kind of tragedies. And that's what we, we had actually quite some help from the Globe.
Yes,
from
that woman.
Yeah.
And there's Decker again.
That's one of my favorite scenes, where one rider to the other.
Yep.
After, and that's where like, Ben Jonson really realizes
How great Shakespeare is. Or
is.
Oxford is.
Or Oxford is. And here this is like, so there's like Will dressed black too. He's like kind of like playing the rider,
Yeah.
It's like hysterical. The Stratfordians must foaming.
Yeah.
And when they see that.
Yeah, Rafe is just great.
Yeah, it's great.
And I love this shot coming up, this one right here.
And you like once in a while have to do something where it's probably never ever happened, but it's like quite, appropriate,
And it speaks to a modern audience.
It
Again,
speaks, exactly.
You're not talking to a 16th century audience.
exactly.
You, Roland, and me are talking to a 21st century audience, and we need to give them those signposts.
Yeah, and we know that like audiences these days are like very young, so let's give them a rock star.
Exactly. So now here, Marlowe, historically, that's Christopher Marlowe we just saw, another playwright, and historically he had very close ties to the government. It's very unclear even today what those ties were, whether he was a spy, an informer, but we used that to make him, in our movie, in our play, a character that sort of informs against his rivals, trying to keep his rivals, first Johnson and then Shakespeare, keep them closed.
And actually, like Robert Cecil is terribly upset, but his father, tells him,
that his father was lampooned and made fun of in front of the entire city in the character of Polonius in Hamlet.
Our authority if the mob thinks us laughing stocks.
Our authority comes from Elizabeth.
and that's like kind of a father teaches a son,
Yeah,
He's teaching him
the
how
dark secrets of statecraft.
exactly. Again, I have to point here out the camera. I think Anna did an amazing job.
spectacular, especially with an experimental camera
Yeah.
that you never knew whether it was going to, break down and
And it was-
crash and lose all of your
Well,
footage.
and that was her first work as
I know.
as a sole cameraman.
I mean, again, bravery on top of,
Look at this.
yeah, it's spectacular.
And then I heard that in these days they had the first wheelchairs, and I wanted to have one, and I had this idea very late, so they had to scramble a bit, but they pulled it off.
They did. And this is all historically accurate. William and Robert Cecil wanted James of Scotland to succeed Elizabeth and did a lot of plotting and machinations behind the scenes to make that happen. And so this is our glimpse of seeing that. And then he also is going to talk about getting rid of Oxford and Essex as possible roadblocks to having James as king. Now, William Cecil, this guy right here, did that all during Elizabeth's reign. Again, as you've said, it was a totalitarian place, and they had no problem executing anybody they thought was a threat to Elizabeth.
Are you certain?
And here's our flashback to
And I wish to marry him.
Jolie, who's now pregnant with Oxford's child.
Already married.
I can do what
Now,
I want.
traditional historians would say that Elizabeth was the virgin queen, but a lot of people think that kind of strains credulity.
And she, the Privy Council, during her reign, changed the succession that also bastard children could become, if they get acknowledged by her, king, which is a totally new concept.
And they changed it rather late in her life.
Yes.
So for many years, the act of succession included bastards. So what bastards are they talking about?
Exactly. And there was kind of with the Privy Council, so there was definitely a concern and a war going on. What should we do? What should we do? And then obviously the Cecils had the solution. They kind of said, let's have King James of Scotland.
Which created the United Kingdom,
Yeah. It's a very important moment in English
British history.
Yeah.
She will not see me. I've gone to her chambers 3 times and she will not receive me, and now she's gone.
But William Cecil is sort of the master puppeteer in all of these machinations of who's going to rule, and he manipulates Edward's life, he manipulates everybody's life through the movie.
You must have known she would go elsewhere. She always has. You're neither the first nor the last of her lovers.
I mean, he's so remarkable, and so is his makeup, and I mean, here he's like in his beard is just starting to go gray, and
it's in his,
he's starting to get
60s.
lines. It's just amazing if you
it's
track
really-
his character through the movie. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And make me a grandson.
And he's kind of saying here also a very important story point. He wants to have an heir. And
Right.
you ask ourselves why he wants to have an heir from him. And here's kind of, when you look closely here, there was the poet ape. Maybe kind of, John, you want to say something about that?
Yeah. Ben Jonson, what got me figuring out how to make this into a movie, the story of the authorship issue, was Ben Jonson talked about William Shakespeare quite a lot in his life, actually. But it's very interesting. At some points, he called him a poet ape and just lampooned him to death, made fun of him, called him a thief, all these things. And then other times, he talked about him in the most laudatory ways possible.
Well, in the first
the soul
folio.
of the age, calling him the
first
soul of
folio.
the age.
That all comes
the
from the-
greatest. It all comes from the first folio. Yeah. The greatest poet of all time, et cetera, et cetera. And I suddenly realized, what if he's talking about two different people? What if he knew the truth? And that was what started me writing the script, was this conceit that Ben Jonson was the one person who knew the truth. And that's how I got my in as a scriptwriter to the story.
And you then told it through Ben Jonson.
Ben Jonson's eyes,
It's
yeah.
in a way, it's Ben Jonson's story.
Exactly. Well, he's the guy that holds our hand
Well,
as
he's
the audience.
also he's in both, in both
Stories.
stories.
Yeah.
And he's also at the end, kind of
Yes. The savior.
But he's also kind of the one who, we will come to this later, but
The third act.
he is pretty much very instrumental in
in the tragedy.
In the tragedy.
Yeah.
And here he realizes all of a sudden that Marlowe is a spy, is an informer.
And informed on him, and that's why his first play was shut down.
I had nothing to do with that. Then I'll just go to Will, and he'll tell me because he has so much more to lose.
Now, this was very controversial, Roland. Do you remember we talked a lot about what do we do with Marlowe? Because Marlowe was murdered at a very young age. And it's very famous that Marlowe was murdered. And I guess we'll come back to that in a second. But we had to think about how do we show Marlowe's death in this movie, both drama-wise and physically. Yeah. But now we go to Ireland, where Essex is trying to quell the Catholic rebellion. Because remember, Elizabeth is a Protestant, and Ireland is Catholic. And the Catholics tried to rebel against the Queen. And so she sent Essex and Southampton to quell the rebellion. And then here we have the big story point of the assassination attempt on Essex from the Cecils.
And now we like kind of try to indicate, you know, that this also has like kind of something to do with
No, this has to do with Shakespeare.
Yeah, but like kind of in a way, you know, we kind of thought that all these scenes fit together.
Right.
Because now like kind of the whole story takes a darker turn.
It's about life and death. It's not just about plays.
It's not right. No, it's not.
This is the only wide shot we use.
Of the maze. Yeah. Oh, this actor was great.
Yeah.
This
it was
guy.
like not an actor. He was actually, I think he was a stunt, you know, double for you know, a
Really?
fencer, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then we used him as an actor because we asked him if he wants to do it. Because, I mean, it was like, he was not acting department, it was stunt department. But we found this guy was amazing. I mean,
Yeah, his eyes.
his eyes were, yeah. This is,
I mean, the casting in this movie is just crazy. I mean, even
Yes.
Paolo, the guy
Yeah,
who plays
yeah.
Francesco,
Yeah.
there are those eyes.
yeah. Well, he was a real Italian, you know, we kind of said, you know, and there was very kind of a big discussion about it, you know.
You mean Oxford servant?
Oxford
Italian.
servant, you know,
Yeah.
he was Italian, and we kind of thought it's good that he's Italian. He brought him back from Italy,
Right.
And I wanted to have a real Italian. I said, like, I'm not like kind of have some English actor, you know, doing like playing Italian, you know, because
The
I think-
idea being, to those people who don't know, 10 or 12 of Shakespeare's plays take place in Italy. And William Shakespeare, as far as we can tell, never went to Italy in his life. Yet Oxford spent a great deal of his youth in Italy.
Well, he kind of traveled there.
He traveled through Italy, yeah.
He traveled there, you know, and he was like very, very famous at that time because he was he was one of the first Englishmen who did the Grand Tour, and in a weird way, he invented the Grand Tour, you know.
Yeah, here-
And,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, and when he came back, you know, he brought pretty much the Italian Renaissance
Right,
to London.
Commedia dell'arte.
Yeah. And he was like also, because he was a fashion victim, he brought like Italian clothes to England.
This was interesting, the bear.
The bear baiting.
The bear baiting scene. You know, we wanted to put it in the movie to show the violence, you know, and this is entertainment, you know, for these people. I mean, it's a very violent time. You know, imagine doing this today, putting a bear in a theater and having dogs tear it apart
And then like bet on how many dogs it needs.
to be killed. It's really intense, or to be maimed. And we wanted to show that this was a very violent time and
Yeah.
place. And then here Rafe is so great because he's asking for more money. And I love this scene where he's about to scream.
This
where you
is like
go,
kind of a
right
man in
there.
a suit.
Right there,
Yeah.
though. You bet that Rafe could kill somebody. And then, yeah, the man in the suit and the bear suit.
Just like, let me pull that one off.
And so now Shakespeare is following Johnson to find out who the real writer is, who the real playwright is.
Again,
On
you
a
know,
bridge that doesn't exist.
yeah, and all these boats were like kind of only on a green wall behind it.
And these poor guys, the rowers, remember? It was
yeah,
so
they had
much
to
work.
kind of, they had to, yeah. They
There's
had
no
to-
water there.
There's
so they
no
had
water
to,
there either.
and they had to
But they-
pretend that it
Yeah,
was
but
hard.
They did a good job. You
They
know?
did,
I have
they
to
did.
say, you know, like
Yeah.
kind of my first AD rehearsed it with them, and Chris Dahl, and he did an amazing job. He kind of pulled it off.
Yeah. And here we are on this great set again.
Yeah. And that's one of my
And-
favorite scenes.
De Vere did have a limp at the end of his life. So now we've integrated that fencing scene into his life.
And in real, he was actually in like kind of battle, with the family of his of the relationship he had with what was her name? Bess.
Bess Vavasor?
Vavasor, yeah, exactly. And they were like kind of battling it out, like a little bit like in Romeo and Juliet on the streets of London. And he got injured in that.
Hey, have you any idea to whom you are speaking?
It's a great scene. I love Rafe again.
Because he slowly realized there is something really dark about him. There is he can be hysterically funny, but here there is like something dark about him too, And
Ambitious. He's
ambitious, yeah. And to show that, he did an amazing job.
Wait. How much? £400 a year. No.
And so now you're showing how the languages
Yeah.
that Shakespeare would have had to have known.
Andiamo. Come.
And whatever we did, for example, this scene here, that was like done in real. But there was not more what you see on shot.
There was
like
just a ground and a few pieces of maze.
Because we also had to kind of figure out how to save money. Here, for example, the background painted with like some real plants.
Yeah.
That's in these movies.
And you'd have people shake the plants, do you
exactly,
remember?
Yeah.
To make it look like it was windy.
Exactly. And here it's a little bit windy out there too, and lovemaking. And
Roland, how many times before this movie had you filmed love scenes?
None.
And there's like 3 or 4 in here, right?
See, when you get older. This was a German actress.
Who plays the lady in waiting of Elizabeth, of the Queen.
She will be furious if she
And it's always whenever we could show, like kind of we showed Oxford riding. I think that was, our, whenever we could do it, we showed him riding. Because we kind of feel that like this man must have been obsessively riding.
Well, he wrote an awful lot.
Yeah.
As somebody who writes every day, I haven't written 37 plays, and
This was like kind of shot on stage in a way, but also the play was real. We shot this in Montacute. We did like a 3-day, like kind of play shoot.
Yeah.
Which we then only used maybe half of it, because we realized, certain things we could do with CGI better. Moment where, again, like, look at the camera. I mean, it's just amazing. It looks like paintings.
Yeah, the color.
Yeah.
The
I cannot be certain, Your Majesty, when the relationship began.
And it's like, the same room where they made love. It's like a totally different feel. She is sitting on her throne. The first time has a dress on which like resembles old Elizabeth.
right, with the high collar and something in her hair that's a little more elaborate, right? Yeah.
The lady
Lizzie Crystal was our costume designer. She did an amazing job.
Each costume was more beautiful
Yeah,
and
we're like,
amazing than the last one. It was just amazing. And she also had a great, she told me how the costumes with Elizabeth would get more and more elaborate with each passing year. So they just become more and more almost fantasies of themselves by the end until she's the Michelin Man.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that shot.
Yeah, that's
Nobody's ever seen that before.
Yeah, and it's all CG, And what we like kind of realized, the most convincing shots were the shots with sunlight. Just like harder shadows,
Right, right.
And, but we only had 2 or 3 of them because, there's not that much sun
In England.
In England. Also, it's the Middle Ages, they thought should be very, very dark and gloomy.
And here's the heart of our movie in this scene. This is the deal with the devil that Oxford makes.
the child. 2, you will never see the mother again. 3, you will avoid court at all costs. Her
He's
Majesty
about
would
to
prefer never to
find out who his son with Elizabeth is, which is what propels the whole movie, actually.
the kingdom, just not of the court.
who will be the next king.
And this was also, a turning point in the whole film.
And I want to say something we haven't really talked about either today or other times is, we came up with a very modern way to tell an Elizabethan story, with sort of fractured flashbacks. It's not a linear story. As an audience member, you have to, pay attention and track it. And we talked about non-linear films when we started working together on the script. And I think it's really an interesting way, to get involved in the story.
Well, it's very risky, and you have to kind of really kind of do it so the story point comes across, and they can help each other. These different time, these different times have to kind of have a correlation in their meaning,
Right,
and then what they get across.
And that was what took us forever.
Yeah, forever. And we're more
Because
like
we wanted to show as much of Oxford's life as possible without it being a biopic, and that was tricky. And we just kept on thinking, well, do we need to show this part of Oxford's life? Do we need to show that part of Oxford's life? And we just trimmed it till we didn't have to see things we didn't have to see.
This is one of my favorite moments here. Also, like kind of how it looks, how he remembers, and he sees him. We cut to
Him seeing his son for the first time.
Yeah, very touching.
Keep it high. Mind your knee. Straight.
Also a green screen.
Yep. A couple of hatches and green. And the background is again like a Cecil house, which we took a Montague
You're an earl as well.
in England.
The Earl of Southampton.
Well then, we shall be earls together, shall we not?
Little boy. So that's like all CG here. There's nothing real.
And there's David now being dead. He's done everything else. Why not die for us?
And it was like a very, very tragic because on that day,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
or the day before, I think Vanessa learned that her, I think, brother at that
It was
time.
it was her brother who died that
brother
day.
died that day.
And she found out during lunch.
Yeah, and she's a trooper.
It was amazing.
She said like kind of look this keeps my keeps me sane, keeps me
Focused.
keeps me not thinking constantly about it. So, and he was like kind of long sick, so it was not a really surprise or anything. It was just happening.
But it was hard.
Yeah.
But she was amazing.
Yeah, she went-
It was teaching me about professionalism.
Yeah.
She knows there's 700 people trying to make a movie, and she was only on the job for another couple of days, though, so
Yeah.
she knew
Yeah,
she
she
could
knows.
make it for the funeral
Exactly.
and all of that. So she just had to handle 2 more days, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was just amazing,
Yeah.
and such a great collaborator too. She
Yeah.
had so many good ideas.
Yeah.
About Elizabeth as a character, including when we get to one scene, a scene that she kind of created.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
We're like in this is the only scene we like kind of shot outside, outside screen. We did a couple of things outside, but very few.
From the Queen.
And there was like kind of actually technically very hard to match the sky. And what we realized, we had to really match exactly the same sky, which at that time, was, and it's like really kind of strange sometimes. Sometimes you can totally lie, but sometimes you cannot lie at all.
It's Robert Cecil. He failed to kill you now.
And this was like kind of shot on stage again,
speak to her?
because
Myself.
we like shot a lot on stage because you just can control the light better. Here comes, there was like, people maybe don't know that, but William Shakespeare of Stratford, who was probably a grain merchant, a theater broker, a businessman, he wanted to, he bought himself, a coat of arms.
Which he needed if he was going to be a partner in a theater
Exactly.
to build the Globe. You couldn't just say, I want to build the Globe. You had to be a certain rank to be able to own land and do something like that. So he bribed his way to get the coat of arms.
And I only read lately, there were like kind of these, there were like kind of 28 coat of arms at that time, which were disputed, and he was one of them.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's like kind of, they find out all these things now. That's kind of quite amazing, you know.
This is another scene that didn't change much through all the drafts.
Yeah, that was always like kind of you know, the scenes we shot.
And they all play it so well because it's a very, this could be a terrible scene if it weren't well directed and well blocked and well acted, because you're asking the audience to go pretty far with you, because we're saying here Shakespeare was illiterate and can't write a letter, much less a play. And we have to be able to play the scene so that when he exits, we're not sure. You know, you as the director are playing it so that the audience can believe that he didn't write anything, but everybody around him could believe that he did write something. A very difficult scene, and you totally pulled it off, and they all did. Oh, I love, again, nothing, only the floor.
There was only a floor in the gate, and yeah.
And those two extras.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. This is also this really occurred, that Essex came back from Ireland, you know, and you know, went to Whitehall very early, and she was doing still her toilet. It's like standing, and
this was at the time when, you know, a great scandal.
And I was amazed that Vanessa, you know, really, you know, like went for it. I mean, it's amazing that an actress, you know, is like so, you know,
brave.
So brave and not vain. You know, I mean, that's just like kind of tells you how amazing an actress she is. It's the character. It's not her at all. It's the character.
And I love this when she sits down on the step.
I kind of like proposed.
And this shot is fabulous.
I proposed this to her, and she said, "Oh yeah." She's tired that moment. She's just upset. She sits down. She doesn't think, and she's alone with one man who.
It humanizes her, though.
Yeah, exactly,
you know?
and it demotes her in a way. You know.
Exactly. She's
sits,
subservient
and he's exactly.
She's subservient to his ideas
because he is pretty much nearly won at that point.
Right. I love that.
It's like I always have to laugh. And again, you know, there was no Essex house. There was only the same gate. We had one gate, and I think we used it very a lot. We had like kind of different.
Yeah, those walls don't exist.
What was kind of interesting, you know, when you know, the movie was cut by Peter Adam, you know, very, very brilliantly, and then he couldn't like kind of do a couple of changes, you know, we did at the very end, and another editor came in, and when he wanted to prolong something, he always like kind of realized this was all shot on like on green screen. And we couldn't do anything anymore. So you know, we had to stay inside, you know,
pre-existing
exactly what we had.
So now here's this is a big plot point, obviously. This is where they're figuring out how they're going to get rid of the Cecils, and in Oxford's mind, maybe proclaim Southampton their actual heir. And Rhys is so great here.
Yeah, he's so great in it. I was actually in tears when I shot it. I kind of started crying.
This line, words will prevail.
Which is the theme of our movie. It's the fight of words against swords.
Right.
You know, and he is like kind of the, you know, he fights with words.
It's the tools he has. And there it is, literally. Now here, though, is one of the big controversies, the choices that we made, which is he's about to close the page, and you're going to see it's Richard III. But in history, in actual historical world, it was Richard II that was performed.
Also, Richard the Third was probably written much earlier.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that when we come back to it. I love this scene.
Well, we had a little ratings problems here. We had like a little bit more there.
Yeah,
and it got shorter and shorter and shorter.
Remember this girl decided to do the part like moments before you had to shoot it because the other girl had a conflict or something.
Yeah, she had a conflict, and we like kind of took one of our other German actresses. You know.
But that was a very brave German actress who volunteered, because in life she was pretty naked in that scene, I think.
Exactly. So, my favorite.
And I love this bit here. I love when Rhys kind of shrugs.
What do you mean, like in a book?
Biggest
Like,
laugh.
that's funny. And then
biggest
right
laugh in the
here.
film. And here we like show how printing worked in these days.
Which was a brand new technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was a very erotic poem.
Yeah,
sorry.
invented by a German, I might say.
And so here's this incredibly erotic, sexual piece of writing that Shakespeare does. All metaphor, obviously. In our movie, to remind the queen of the passion they once shared together.
And beauty breedeth beauty. Thou wast begot. To beget is thy duty.
Here is like, you know, like she finds out about it. And it was like kind of really difficult because she had like pretty much in every scene another dress on.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Lizzie pulled this off with her budget.
With no money, I know.
With no money, I mean.
This is one of my, I love this scene too. I love, Vanessa.
How it's lit and how she acts it. And
the lighting is gorgeous.
The lighting, yeah. It's like a magic hour scene. And it's like kind of in the evening when it's raining. And I think, I think these kind of, you know, shots, you know, show the brilliance of this camera. And the brilliance of our camera woman.
And your gaffer too, your
that,
lighting
like,
director.
There's like they did an amazing job, and then you have actors, you know, who like kind of.
What's really funny, the day after we shot this, Ed came up to me, and because I'd wanted to talk to him because I thought the scene went so well, just to congratulate him. And I said, "Oh, Ed, I've wanted to talk to you about that scene." And he's like, "I know, John. I'm so sorry. I was so horrible." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I didn't have much to do." I said, "Ed, Vanessa was playing totally off you. You know, Vanessa..."
And he does what he does with his eyes. You only have to
exactly.
look at his eyes.
This scene is nothing without his performance. He says very little, but it's incredibly important to the scene. Acting is not just what you say.
Because now he like kind of is losing, and he shows the losing in very little gestures. And she is all of a sudden strong. She kind of found
returning to herself. Yeah,
she found her voice again. She found her inner feelings
through the poetry. So to all those Stratfordians, it's all about the poetry. Whoever wrote it, and the power of the poetry.
Well, they like say it's like a literary exercise, which is sure they say that because it's hard to imagine, you know, the man from Stratford like in writing, you know, have written these lines. So, anyhow.
And I love this costume too. This was one of my, what she's wearing, that purple, it was just this extraordinary color.
It was just, you know, that's when how she went to bed, you know. It was like kind of the last, she had her like kind of,
And so, in spite of death,
now she reads, you know, like a little bit of the poetry she just got in book form.
About having an heir.
is left alive.
Oh, this is my favorite shot maybe in the movie.
Yeah. And here is the Globe. We revamped our other theater. The right and left is like added on. And, you know, and what we like kind of did, we shot more and more with wide shots, with wide lenses. I've never shot a movie with that wide lenses ever. And some of the shots, you know, this one, for example, is a 14.
Wow.
And normally, you know, these, you know, lenses are like kind of very distorting, but they made like new wide lenses, which totally, you know, corrects the distortion.
And there's Mark Rylance again.
Playing
Richard III.
Yeah.
They'll have me arrested.
Arrested? It's just the one performance. Go on.
I need a drink.
And so we changed the play from Richard II to Richard III only because of the Hunchback. We thought the audience would understand the metaphors much quicker and more economically.
Well, and Richard II, there's only one scene, you know, where like a king gets disposed and is
Deposed.
Deposed.
Sorry.
So, yeah, deposed. And it would have been too intellectual. It would have been not as
We
visual.
could have done it, but it would have taken 10 extra pages to explain.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 10 extra minutes, you know.
Yeah, and it would have been not as for our movie, Richard III worked Much better.
And I would even argue the reason that Richard III is a hunchback is Shakespeare, whoever he was, was going after Robert Cecil, because the real Richard III was not a hunchback. Why did Shakespeare make him a hunchback when Robert Cecil, the most powerful man in England, is a hunchback? Why would he do that? Unless he's purposely trying to do something.
You know, like Ben Jonson gets pretty much thrown out of the Globe because William Shakespeare is a part owner of the theater. And, you know...
And there's nothing a writer likes less than having somebody else more successful than him. So he's drowning his sorrows.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
I wouldn't know anybody like that. No. And they're just rubbing it in.
Exactly.
He can't take it anymore.
And now he does what he actually despised before. You know, he does what Marlowe does.
Right.
He's ratting out on somebody. And he
hates himself for it, but he can't not do it.
And I think Sebastian, our master, played this too.
The inner conflict is obvious, you know?
Yeah.
He hates doing it, but he can't not do it because he hates Will so much. But in doing this, he sets up the tragedy to follow. He's alerting Robert Cecil when the rebellion is going to happen.
And, you know, and Paul will immediately notice is like of importance because, and that's what Richard III made so much more sense for us, like as storytellers, because it's all about that, like a character is a hunchback and he will inform the hunchback. It just makes more sense. And we had, like, you remember the discussions we had with Mark Rylance about it?
Yeah, and Vanessa.
But
you know what? They both agreed once we explained why.
Yeah, and I think they know, like, kind of probably seeing the movie, they very much, like, kind of agree with us. It, like, works, you know? And here it's also interesting. The man who was, like, kind of, before, you know, wanted to do something against the Shakespeare is, like, kind of learned from his father. He knows, you know, I will use this. I will use this. And here at Hawk, again, he plays.
He doesn't shut down the play.
Well, that's my favorite visual effect shot. Again, sun helps a lot, but that's
all the boats, ships.
Not one thing is real in the shot.
Wow,
and it looks pretty real, right?
Yeah.
And here we come into the. Here we had to only replace the sky.
And now look at Shakespeare's wearing much more beautiful clothes. He's much more successful.
Dressed up. He's a gentleman now.
Exactly.
And here, I also wanted to show that the first earls used powder, you know.
This is the beginning of that.
It's like, it started then. And, you know, the Earl of Oxford was always known for being the best dressed, you know, the most elegant of them all. I also kind of found this quite interesting to have a writer have this kind of, you know, like a love of clothes, right?
Well, are you saying that I don't dress well, Roland?
No. Well, but I also, you know what, I kind of constantly was looking for a reference for, living people, you know, like kind of also give to Rhys some sort of an indication how he could play it. And I said, you know what, you should study Lagerfeld, Karl Lagerfeld.
Yeah.
Because not that he was Karl Lagerfeld, but like Karl Lagerfeld is also a very kind of a workaholic. He's a you know, one of the best designers to have, but he's also vain. I mean, you know what I mean? That's like kind of, for me, you know, to be vain and into clothes doesn't mean you cannot be an amazing artist. This is like kind of also one of my favorite things, the hump.
Hump in the armor.
Hump in the armor.
Yeah. And I love the cross-cutting of the Richard III
with Robert Cecil.
With Robert
that's
Cecil.
why we did it.
Yeah. No, but it just works really nicely.
That's why we did it. We could have never done this with Richard II, you know, because it would have to shown, you know.
Yeah, you couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's also like kind of quite sweet because these two old people, you know, like kind of go on a date.
Elizabeth and Edward.
Elizabeth and Edward going
Oxford.
at Oxford and Elizabeth going on a date again. They have a meeting and they dress up. They want to look their best, you know.
Right. They haven't seen each other in 20 years.
Exactly, in
or
20
something.
years. So it's this moment, you know, which gives it also like a, you know, a certain, you know, emotional undertone, you know, which is important in films. And here we have the headstrong Essex, who is okay. I'm going with Oxford. You know, I hope that he brings me this mob.
He's trusting him.
Yeah, but I cannot, you know, not totally trusting him. Southampton trusts him, but Essex is like critical. You know,
Right. We'll see.
Yeah, and he's nervous. He's waiting. Just, you know, again, there was nothing here. There was just all in front of blue screen.
Just floor.
Yeah. What he does with his stick. And then naturally, as you can see, you know, all writers have ink on their fingers. That was like kind of, you know, a really, really cool idea, you know, actually not by me, you know, it's actually by the makeup people. I said, wouldn't he have ink on his? And I said, yeah, every writer has to have. And then it was like always, I always kind of had to approve it, how much ink. You know?
You became the ink approver.
Yeah, I became the...
And then here, poor Mark Rylance, maybe the greatest living Shakespearean actor of his age, of his time, is being pelted with vegetables and fruits while he's doing Richard III.
But he enjoyed it. It's quite...
All day long, he was being pelted by fruit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now Johnson suddenly realizes that
he has done something wrong.
Right. That they're going to be walking into a trap.
Yeah.
The coward knows!
How do you think it ends?
No doubt tragically.
That's like, I remember I asked you, can we have like a last little beat for the two writers?
Yeah. It's a sweet beat, too.
Yeah.
And so now we're seeing, you know, the power of words. And here it is in action.
Mm-hmm. Again, all CG here. And the trap, you know,
is
set, and you know, and we like kind of on the very end, you know, decided to build a little bit more here than we normally do because we had to have the cannons, you know, but
not much.
But not much. Yeah, everything in this movie was like kind of really, you know, I mean, when you would like kind of panned a little bit to the left, there would have been nothing. Now in a very tragic way, you know.
Francesco,
dies. Which people I think like very much, has to die. And
so for the moment, the sword is mightier than the pen at this moment in the movie.
And naturally, you know, Essex does something which is wrong. You know,
he's rash.
He's rash
and he makes a bad decision.
Now, we have to kind of say here, he never rode to Whitehall.
Right.
But we had to, somewhat like in movies, you have to just make it, you know, let's character
dramatic.
come together. Make it dramatic, make it, you know, just you know...
exciting.
Exactly. And it's just... and bring characters together. Because here we not only could bring... you know, Oxford and Southampton and Essex together. We could also bring Elizabeth and Robert Cecil together. This is like, you know, just sometimes what you in movies you have to do.
Well, you kind of have to. Not
yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, no. It's like you have to.
We have to do this, you know.
Yeah. And because he now sees, you know, that the people, you know, he said out to help are getting slaughtered and killed. And this was, Vanessa said she wants to look in that scene like Lady Gaga. and in a weird way, she looks like Lady Gaga.
Yeah, she does.
But Edward, you must flee quickly, Majesty. He means to kill you and take the throne for himself.
And ultimately, Elizabeth cares more about power than anything else.
Yeah.
And soon as he says he wants to take the throne, boom, she comes back and doesn't care about Oxford, nothing. It's all about the throne. This is amazing. I don't know how you did this, Roland. I will never know how you did this for my whole life.
I was the only one who...
You were the only one who understood how this worked. And
Yeah,
the reason
yeah.
I'm saying that to everybody is, again, there's only a floor here. And how you direct this and figure this out in your head, how it will cut together, I can't
Well,
even
that's
imagine.
like, and I have to say that's the experience of the other movies I do. You know,
Yeah.
that I have to constantly do that, and you know, but like in these other movies, I have a previs, a pre-visualization, which like shows my crew exactly what's going on.
But you didn't here. You
No.
were doing this in your head
We had-
as we were on set.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the scene.
Here's the scene.
Here's the scene that gets everybody really upset. And I'd like to say to all of those people that are very upset about this scene, just because Robert Cecil says something doesn't mean it's true.
I think it's true. it just makes sense when you like kind of, you know, it for the story makes sense.
For the story, it absolutely makes sense.
Also, I mean, like this is like kind of where John and I don't totally agree, but we always like kind of when I kind of proposed it to him, you know, we had like you know, at least like 1 or 2 days of like discussions about it, and I kind of convinced, you know, John, you know, with the simple fact, you know, that you can just like believe that he's only wants to spite him.
Right.
But
exactly.
but
it plays both ways.
exactly, it plays both ways, and it's very ambiguous, and whatever it does, you know, it's like takes the audience by total surprise.
Absolutely.
And when you look at history, and how people, you know, what they all did for the fact, you know, to become king, and I only like kind of want to say, like Elizabeth's mother, Anne Boleyn, was also rumored to be in an incestuous relationship with Henry VIII.
Yeah.
That was like rumored at that time. And so incest at that time was like not allowed, but I think a lot practiced.
Yeah. It's certainly possible, Roland. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying.
No, it's also like it divides the Oxfordians, you know,
Yeah.
quite a bit, because for us today, you know, it's a impossible thing to think. But what I also think softens the blow, they both didn't knew it.
Right.
She didn't knew it.
Right. In our movie, we don't say she knows
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
he doesn't know it. And also, again, ultimately, this is a movie, and it's about the drama, and dramatically, it's beautiful, and it's Shakespearean. And we said very early on, you and I, when we were sitting in your kitchen, we said we're going to make a Shakespearean movie with those big ideas that Shakespeare uses. And this performance of Ed and Rhys in the scene is so extraordinary that there's no way I would ever want you to take it out.
Yep.
In fact, I begged you to take it out before you shot it. And you said, no, I love this scene. I'm going to shoot it, and then we'll see. And you were totally right, because I think it's the climax character-wise for Oxford and Robert. And this performance of both of them is just extraordinary. You didn't tell him to cry, did you? I mean, I think
No, he did this himself.
in the first take. Isn't this like the first take,
no,
too?
it was like I think the second or third take where I said like, he said, "Can I do something special?" And I said, "Sure, be my guest." And I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And then I have to say, you know, then I said like, you know, but then you have to, for the other scene, you know, which comes after that, you have to do 2 takes, one with where you have to cry again and one not. And he did that too. I mean, out of nowhere. I mean. And I kind of thought, you know, it so helps, you know, to define his character. Look here how he was swelling up, you know. And then he perfectly knows on King.
You could have been a king.
See, it runs down on King.
And then I know.
I mean, I don't know how he does it.
I don't know either.
It's that's what actors, you know, like give you, you know, which you could not write, right?
Yeah.
Would we ever have thought, you know,
No,
about something like
no.
that?
I
That's what
wouldn't have
really
thought-
acting does. That's I always like say 80% of directing is to choose the right actors. Let's
I
be
don't know
honest.
about that, but
No, but
it certainly helps. And you had these guys are just phenomenal.
Just incredible. And see, then now comes the shot where he had to cry again because he was, you know.
Right.
And that's also like something where like I think like Rhys is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a broken man, And whenever like kind of they kind of said, I think like kind of people think that Oxford kind of died on the plague or something like that. He always like kind of claims he died on a broken heart. And that's how he played it. He just played it.
The sonnets are written by a broken man.
Well, we also like kind of said from that moment on, it has to get very cold in the film, and we decided to shoot everything in snow, which I kind of think gives this, looks like out of Dr. Zhivago, and it just gives it, and that's probably my favorite line, when she says like, put that in your.
Put that in one of your plays.
Yeah. Because that's exactly what like Shakespeare's plays are about.
Right.
They're all family dramas, where like kind of people do incredible things. So yes, also everything is cold.
Right.
It's just, and that's a fact that like Essex got beheaded first, and then like and Southampton should be next. And this is like a real mystery that like kind of Southampton
was spared. And
he was
for years.
He was like 42 years in the Tower. And then he was released after like King James the First was crowned.
Just a couple months, right? Or a couple weeks or something after.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how. But shortly after, he got released. Which is like a total mystery. And why did that happen, And John and I said worked great for our story.
Right.
Because in our story, he's the son of Oxford and Elizabeth. And here now the father pleads to the mother.
Wasn't this Rhys's first day?
And that was his first day.
This scene was his first day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
his first scene, I think.
And actually, he quite liked it. He said, "At least I know where I'm going."
Right.
And for him, it was very important actually to do this right away, because he could figure out how he looks as a broken man.
He could build to this
exactly
in
to
the
this
other
moment.
scenes. Yeah.
And he was amazing. I mean, look how he looks.
Yeah.
You look old.
I like that line too.
Always gets a little laugh.
Yeah.
But it's also like typical line for Elizabeth, I mean, she is also vain, and she is
her young lover is no longer her young lover.
Yeah, exactly.
And now look at her costume too. It's become more elaborate, more baroque.
Where like kind of Lizzie said, that's like kind of when Jacobean kind of fashion started with
the very end of her reign.
Yeah. With puffy arms and and these like kind of new colors. I think it was also a little bit like kind of. I think the reason was that she was like kind of still reigning, and they kind of imitated now for women also like these ruffs. I don't know.
Right.
I think find it very strange.
Now, I think this is actually a really interesting scene, or just what she's talking about right now about the Cecils, because they were at her side from the beginning to the end for her entire reign. They're the only two people that were with her the whole time.
And they could never ever become king because they were commoners.
Exactly. They were never a threat to her. But all these other people come and go, many of them beheaded because they were a threat to her. But the Cecils were never a threat. And that's ultimately, in our movie, why they win.
And if I give him to...
It's also her decision.
Yeah,
she
she's
made
smart.
a decision.
She's smart.
But she also, like, there is, like, kind of really a lot written about it. After Essex got beheaded, her health really went down. And she pretty
Might
much...
have been a broken person as well.
Maybe. And that's why she also, like, we tried to kind of fill in the blanks. And I think, again, two great actors at their best. Just like super
So much is said without saying anything. This is where you don't
look
need
here
a writer.
how she looks at him. There's looking at him.
Yeah,
and
right
then,
there.
And then she looks away. She
can't take it.
No, she doesn't want to have eye contact with him. She just doesn't. She's embarrassed. She doesn't want to feel anything anymore.
Right, exactly.
None of your poems
And this is all acting. You can't write this.
Yeah.
will ever carry your...
They made a deal. And how that must feel for a writer to make that deal. And he only does it for his to save his son. He's upset. And now comes the scene is actually inspired from
Vanessa.
Vanessa, you know, they said, can I play? She actually wanted to play another scene like that. And I said, this will not going to work. So we added the scene, was not in the script, but we added it. And I think it's a crucial scene because...
yeah, she was so right.
In a way, it's a way you see that she was like, until the very end, not kind of signing the succession.
And the reason Vanessa wanted to do this was, as we said, Vanessa knows more about Elizabeth than probably Roland and I combined, because she's read about her whole life. And she knew that at the end of Elizabeth's life, this is what happened. She just, for days, sat on pillows, and her teeth had fallen out. So she was rubbing her gums with, you know, to make the pain go away in her mouth. And so Vanessa really wanted to do that, and we just talked for quite a bit about the way to do it and when to do it in the movie, and this is what we came up with. And it's really important. She was completely right. And then this shot is just tremendous.
Now, like, kind of, first of all, her funeral was in summer. It was not on the Thames because of that.
Shame on you, Roland.
I know, but it's
putting
like
snow on the ground.
Well, it's just everything is frozen. This this river, who was like kind of the life of the city, is frozen, and it's just like was for me a symbol, and I think
metaphor. Yeah, this is
and
what
a
film
metaphor.
is.
Like the same way, you know, like a certain place use metaphors,
exactly.
so you use in films metaphors.
Exactly. This actor, remember this actor?
Yeah. Well, he was at that time playing theater, and it's very unlikely that we could use him. But I kind of thought he had this uncanny resemblance with James the First,
and he could do a Scottish accent.
And he was like
with a lisp.
And he, when I met him, you know, he like said how he must have spoken and had this like kind of lisp, and he was so good.
Which James really did have.
Exactly.
And it's very hard to do Scottish lisp.
So I said, we have to have him. So I went out of my way. Luckily, with visual effects, you can do these things these days. Here, one of my favorite scenes, because how it looks and how it's acted, you know, it's very kind of emotional.
The best scenes are non-dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
I think in movies, you know, just it's pure emotion.
Also the contrast to this.
Yeah, exactly.
And you lot are about as funny as the play.
Will Shakespeare!
Hello, Ben.
Fraud, charlatan, a counterfeiter
of wit.
That's actually
like
a Shakespeare phrase.
Yeah.
Counterfeiter of wit is in a Shakespeare play. I stole that.
Have to steal from the best, right?
Exactly right. But I just loved that term, counterfeiter of wit.
And now comes a scene, you know, which was in the original script, and that's probably the reason why I wanted to do this movie, because it deeply touched me. Because it, you know, here is, you know, Ben Jonson, who lays in the mud, you know, is called, you know, one more time to Oxford, and we ask ourselves why. And his wife is like kind of against it, and there he is correcting. I think it's like very important to know that I think a writer wants to correct until the very end.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
I mean,
very
right?
true.
Isn't this like kind of what writers do?
Absolutely.
And even it's like... So
it's never done.
I notice sometimes from scripts, we change like 4 or 5 lines, and we make sure that everybody has the last version. As these like 3 or 4 lines would make a difference.
Exactly.
But actually, I think they do. And
sometimes they do, absolutely.
Exactly. And, you know, here, we have like 2 writers. One who's dying.
And one's at the beginning of his career. Because Jonson's still a new playwright.
Exactly. And here he meets the one writer, asks the other writer, you know, what he thinks of his work.
When I inherited my earldom, I was one of the...
And by that time, you know, I mean, this is a fact. Oxford was not a very rich man anymore.
And he had been born the richest man in England.
One of the richest.
But
whatever, nobody really knows where all that money went. You know, yes, a lot for clothes, a lot for all kinds of escapades. Alone his travels, you know, nearly bankrupt him. But I think a lot of people believe, you know, he was just obsessed with theater and was like had at one point like 2 acting troupes, and he was like kind of probably paying a lot of these writers then, and gave them jobs and gave them.
Well, he was one of the great patrons of the arts at the time. I
and
mean,
no-
it was not just, it was poetry, it was musicians, it was nonfiction books that he would publish, you know, pay for being published, all these things.
Never told me, no. Never told me what you thought of my work.
He wants to know.
Because Johnson is his only audience. This is the fact.
And because he knew he never clapped, and he always watched him. Did he clap?
Right. And Johnson's the only person who knows in our movie that he wrote the plays.
And when you like kind of remember, Ben Jonson himself wanted to be the soul of the age.
Exactly. So there's a lot of subtext going on between the two men here. Because Oxford is basically everything Ben Jonson wants to be. And can't quite be.
And that's like also amazing how, without any words, sometimes actors do things. It's amazing. When we like kind of shot that scene at the audience, as the audience was the crew.
The crew,
and the crew was, they all had like their tears in their eyes. It's just incredible.
It was pretty amazing. The crew, this scene really speaks to, I think, artists and craftsmen. And
How could he not? But he is not your burden. He is mine.
And now they make this deal, you know, which the first folio is. When, you know, like kind of Ben Jonson published or did this two
the dedication, yeah.
the dedications as poems, Ben Jonson was very, very, you know, in a way, you know, he was a writer, and I think he left everywhere little hints. For example, in the opening line, you know, he makes like a parenthesis around Shakespeare's name. Why did he do that?
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? I just learned that.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's like,
or maybe I've forgotten it.
Yeah, maybe I've forgotten it. There's a lot of things sometimes you forget, and then you know, there's like kind of a new book coming out where like an Oxfordian pretty much writes only about the first folio, and like kind of takes it apart. Because the first folio was with like kind of a Stratfordian, never ever say, was like kind of financed by the descendants of de Vere.
Yeah, his
family.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like kind of really quite interesting because his family, because the Cecils and Oxford's family kind of became one family, there must have been, you know, some in the family who wanted to kind of keep him alive and try to kind of hint at and use the man
and
who
honor him.
And honor him.
Well, and as you know, when Anne died, when the character on the right died, James had how many, 10 or 12 Shakespeare plays performed in her honor?
Well, you know, Anne died before Oxford.
Oh, so it was the second wife.
The
it was
second
the second
wife.
wife.
Exactly,
right,
the
right.
second
It was the
wife.
second wife. Sorry, I'm
That was
remembering
like
our
kind of one of
movie
the
better
things.
than
Yeah,
truth sometimes.
Yeah, but that's what we also did. We kind of thought Anne couldn't die before Oxford because she is like kind of in a way
The love I dedicate to your lordship.
the reason why he became what he became, and she could say these lines to Ben Jonson, and Ben Jonson can says, "My lady, will be only remembered, because he puts."
Again, we're going into our theme, and she represents the Cecils, and Johnson represents art, and so we need her to be the mouthpiece dramatically, you know, of the Cecils in that point in the scene.
And now we go back to our very opening scene. It's like a flashback in a flashback. And now we come to the conclusion. This is now where we like kind of think, will he
give up?
Will he give up
the name? Will he give up the name of or the plays where the plays are?
Where the plays. It's a PG-13 movie, but we still try to make it as threatening as possible.
My sister saw you leave Oxford Stone with them under your arm.
They were destroyed. Burned.
Ben Jonson is in a way, you know, putting on an act.
And in
But
our
there's also
movie-
there's a lot of like truth to it, what he says too.
Exactly.
He's lying.
See here why I'm lying? No.
Why would I lie? He was something.
And everything he's saying right now is what Robert feels as well. They both feel the same thing right here.
Plagued my soul.
And that's why Robert believes him here. Because everything Johnson says, Robert feels as well. Because remember, he's hunchbacked and broken, and this golden boy, handsome and beautiful, and got all the girls, and so he was always jealous of Oxford as Ben Jonson is jealous of Oxford. They're just jealous for different reasons.
And he gets released.
And Johnson,
This was one of the last scenes we shot.
won't you?
This was also good that we shot it at the very end. Because I think Sebastian and Ed had like kind of lived through the whole film,
Yeah.
so they could put everything in there. And now this piece of music is actually from the first Elizabeth movie.
Is it really?
Yes, and we like kind of, and I had to kind of ask Jolie because she's the ex-wife of one of the owners of the producer of Working Title.
Wow,
So and
I
they
didn't know that.
and they have this rule never ever to license film music of their films to anybody, and they made an exception.
Wow. It's a really nice music cue.
Yeah, it's like it's perfect. It's just perfect.
Now here's another scene that I literally don't know how you did. And I know that neither did Larry Franco, the producer, and neither did Anna Forster, the DP. We're not quite there yet, but when we see James, I'll bring it up again.
Well, he finds now like that the plays have survived
through the fire because they were put into a metal box.
They're singed, but they're like there, and I think a lot of people, actually like Amy Pascal said to me, "You made me cry about a writer."
Well, now.
now. But
Amy Pascal
what
is
I
the
mean.
head of the movie
Yeah,
studio,
yeah.
for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, and but I know what she means. I mean, her whole life is about trying to get
Writers to turn in scripts and
and give them notes and battle it out with them, because scripts are the most important things about movies. Without a script, you have nothing. And there's like a famous line from like Billy Wilder. What's important about a movie? And there's three things: the script, the script, the script. And that's the scene you're referring to.
Yeah. Now, so in this scene, the actor who plays the king, the actor Mark Rylance, who is doing prologue for Muse of Fire, and then we're about to see Derek Jacobi again.
They were never in the same spot.
They were never available on the same day. And so Roland said, "Don't worry, I know how I can do this." And we all looked at him like, "You're crazy." And okay, we believe you. And somehow he did it. Mark Rylance was by himself.
Here, like the gentleman who sits in the chair is like one of Tamara's actors.
It's not the king.
See, and it is like now in the stage, we had to recreate that kind of angle. And then we're on the stage, and it's all without any visual effects. It's like just like
in camera.
I always like this shot because you see the
candelabra.
The candelabra.
Ben Jonson succeeded in his desire.
And here we have Derek again.
And we ended up, you remember we rewrote this dialogue like 7 times, this bit of epilogue. And I'm really proud of it, actually. It took a bit of work.
It's beautiful work.
I really like this little, because how do you end this movie? It has to have some beauty to it in the word. And I just love this little bit. I mean, I'm sorry to talk about myself. Actually, Tamara helped me with this little bit too.
Yeah.
She kept on reading it with me and making suggestions.
And brilliantly performed.
Yeah, exactly.
And he looks at the beginning of the movie, in the camera, and now again.
At the very end.
Where we like kind of talk directly to the audience.
And there's just this very quiet.
And then we had a long discussion. Should
very
we
quiet
like applaud or not applaud? And I said, I'm not like have them applaud. It's like applauding
No.
ourselves. No,
Yeah, exactly.
It's also like kind of such a great, way to kind of end the movie, where like you're in a theater, and I cannot decide at the relatively late to like use end credits. We had them at the beginning in the front, and I always have the feeling when you have credits on historical movies, you just don't get sucked in. And here, this was such a beautiful way to end the movie, and just have the people leaving the theater.
And it also reminds you yet again, this is a movie.
Yeah,
it's not a documentary.
Exactly.
It's a piece of theater, and I think that was what was so great about that idea of yours.
It was like an invention.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
This is like kind of all the people, the talented people, which like kind of worked on this movie. This was like kind of, I think I always like say this was, without kind of putting down all the other actors I had in my movies, because that would be unfair, but I think this was the most well-rounded cast I ever had. Because even to the smallest part, this was like, and it's like sometimes luck, I mean, you have to also get a little bit lucky.
Yeah.
In these things.
Well, yeah, we didn't even talk about, we almost made this movie 5 years ago. And if we had, it would have been a totally different movie, and you wouldn't have had this amazing cast.
Exactly.
The stars aligned to get 2010. That spring, those people were available.
Exactly. No, also at that time, the movie would have been more conventional.
5 years ago, you mean?
Because at that time, there was no, the visual effects were not on the same level yet. And at that time, we like kind of wanted to kind of create a big model of London of the 16th century.
Right, you were telling me at the time, I remember you said it was going to be like the size of a football field
Exactly,
or something.
and it would have been super expensive. And
right.
And we went, with like we got like a green light with 40 million. And after like 2, 3, 4 months of preparation, we're already like clear that this will be not 40, it will be 50. And we had like just not any actor, which I like.
Right.
And naturally at that time also was, there were like kind of also American actors, and there was and here I think it was a little bit the thing that everybody was a little bit weirded out. I wanted to make this movie because my other movies are so different, and in a way, it was good that we didn't do it then, because I had then in the meantime like shot 2012. And in 2012, I also like used a lot of green screen, and also I shot it with a digital camera. So I was amazed how easy and amazing like kind of composite shot could look. So I was much more, let's say, gutsy and going and said, no, we don't build this. Right. We do this all on the computer, and that pretty much was, I think, the first movie, where I think visual effects made a movie cheaper, and at the same time enormously bigger.
Yeah.
Because whenever you do that, yes, you can all of a sudden show things which you would have probably in a conventional way never would be able to show.
Exactly. And it gives the film, as I said to you before, it makes London an active character in the movie.
Also, it like enabled us to kind of shoot with the new Arriflex camera. There was not even there yet. And that, I think that's why this movie looks so different and beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it was shot just on an other camera. And Anna knew that like she's the first one shooting with this camera. So she extra took care, that she shows off this camera really well.
Pushed its boundaries, yeah.
And I always like kind of was joking about, I was said like kind of probably the ghost of Stanley Kubrick roams here at night and tries to tries out the camera because he was always like kind of the first one who wanted to do that in Barry Lyndon. He was the first one
only with candlelight.
He was the first one who ever, but like when you look at his scenes, they're very, very red. And there's pretty much no other color than red in it. And that's just
by the technical limitations of the time.
Exactly. So
it looks like our movie's over, Roland.
yes, and it was shot in Babelsberg, which was also for me a real nice thing, because I shot after 20 years a movie in Germany again.
And it was great. The crew was great, and
I want to thank them all here.
So
when
amazing.
When they happened to check out this DVD.
They were amazing.
You guys were amazing. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Every single guy and girl. It was amazing. They all worked so hard for this movie. So.
Okay, now we have to say goodbye.
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 Goodbye.